The legend of Yaa Asantewaa, the warrior queen. Long ago, in the heart of the Ashanti kingdom, there lived a woman whose bravery would echo through time. Her name was Yaa Asantewaa, a simple woman by birth, but destined to become a legend. The Ashanti kingdom was a rich and powerful land, known for its gold and strong warriors. But peace never lasted long. The British, with their guns and greed, wanted to rule the land and take its treasures. They captured King Prempeh and sent him far across the ocean. Without their king, the Ashanti people felt lost, their spirits crushed. The chiefs gathered in secret meetings, whispering about what to do. Fear hung heavy in the air. The British were too powerful, their weapons too strong. But among the men, one voice rose, the voice of Yaa Asantewaa. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not fight, then I, a woman, will gather my fellow women and fight the British myself. The room fell silent. The chiefs looked at her, ashamed. Yaa Asantewaa's eyes burned with courage. The beginning of the battle. Yaa Asantewaa wasted no time. She gathered both men and women to prepare for war. She taught them how to fight and encouraged them with powerful words. We fight not just for ourselves, but for our children and our land. The spirits of our ancestors will guide us. The British soldiers thought the war would be easy, but they were wrong. Yaa Asantewaa's warriors knew the forest better than anyone. They set traps, ambushed their enemies, and disappeared into the shadows. For many months, the war raged on. Yaa Asantewaa stood at the front of every battle, her voice echoing through the hills. But the British grew angrier. They sent more soldiers and bigger guns. The Ashanti warriors fought bravely, but their weapons were no match for the enemy's firepower. The fall of a warrior. One night, under a moonlit sky, the British surrounded the last Ashanti stronghold. Yaa Asantewaa and her warriors fought until their arrows were gone and their swords were broken. Even when the British captured her, Yaa Asantewaa did not beg for mercy. She stood tall, her eyes fierce. You may take me from my land, but you will never break my spirit. The British sent her far away across the ocean, just like King Prempeh. The Ashanti kingdom fell silent, but the people never forgot her name. A curse or a promise. Years passed. The Ashanti people fought again and again, until finally, they won back their freedom. But whispers filled the villages. Some say Yaa Asantewaa's spirit never left. They say she walks through the forest at night, her voice calling to those brave enough to listen. It is said that one day, when the Ashanti people face danger again, Yaa Asantewaa's spirit will rise from the earth to lead her people once more. The return of Yaa Asantewaa, a new threat. Many years passed. The Ashanti kingdom had won its freedom, and the people lived in peace. But peace is like a river, it flows, but one day, storms will come. A new danger was rising. This time, it was not the British. It was something far worse. The dark prophecy. One evening, the elders gathered in the royal palace. An old priestess, Nana Obonsam, had seen a vision. Her voice trembled as she spoke. The land is in danger. A great darkness is coming. It will burn our farms, poison our rivers, and take the souls of our children. Only a warrior of old can save us, but she is gone. The room fell silent. No one needed to ask who the priestess was talking about. Yaa Asantewaa. The warriors of Ashanti were strong, but something about this new danger felt different. It was not an army. It was something unseen, something evil. Some believed it was a curse, a spirit of vengeance from the war long ago. Others feared that enemies from far away were coming to take their land again. But one thing was certain, the Ashanti needed their warrior queen once more. A whisper in the wind that night, a young warrior named Kwame Osei could not sleep. He sat outside his hut, staring at the stars. Then, the wind shifted. A whisper filled the air. My people need me. Kwame jumped to his feet. He turned, searching for the voice, but saw nothing. Go to the sacred forest, the wind whispered again. His heart pounded. He knew the place well, the forbidden grove where Yaa Asantewaa was said to have trained for battle. No one dared enter. The elders warned that her spirit still walked there, watching over the land. But if the warrior queen had truly spoken, he had no choice. The sacred forest before dawn, Kwame Osei took his spear and made his way into the dark forest. The trees swayed, though there was no wind. Shadows danced between the branches. As he stepped forward, he felt something cold brush against his skin. Then, he saw her. Yaa Asantewaa. She was no longer flesh and blood, but a golden spirit, glowing like fire in the darkness. She wore her warrior cloth, her rifle slung across her back. Her eyes burned like the sun. "Why have you come?" she asked. Kwame fell to his knees. "Our people are in danger. We need you." Yaa Asantewaa stepped forward. "Then we must prepare for war." The warrior queen rises again. News spread like wildfire. The spirit of Yaa Asantewaa had returned. The Ashanti warriors, young and old, gathered in the forest. Though she was no longer human, her voice was strong, her commands clear. "Sharpen your weapons. Strengthen your hearts. The Ashanti kingdom must never fall." The people cheered. Drums thundered across the land. But the darkness was growing closer. No one knew exactly what was coming, but they knew one thing: the battle for Ashanti had begun once more. The return of Yaa Asantewaa, the battle begins. The Ashanti people prepared for war. The spirit of Yaa Asantewaa had returned, guiding her warriors just as she had in life. But this time, they faced something they did not understand. It was not an army of men. It was a shadow. The darkness approaches. One evening, a farmer named Kojo Anchi ran into the village, his face pale with fear. "The river! The river has turned black," he shouted. The villagers rushed to see. Where the water had once been clear and fresh, it was now thick and dark as night. Fish floated on the surface, dead. The air smelled rotten. Then came the second sign. In the middle of the night, a great fire erupted on the farmlands. The flames were not red, but blue and green, twisting and burning without smoke. The farmers tried to put it out, but water only made it grow stronger. By morning, the fields were nothing but ashes. The people gathered at the chief's palace, their voices filled with fear. "This is no ordinary enemy," one elder said. "It is a curse," cried another. But Yaa Asantewaa stood tall. "No matter what it is, we will fight. Ashanti will not fall." The shadow warriors that night, they came. From the forest, dark figures moved silently into the village. They had no faces, only glowing red eyes. Their bodies were like smoke, shifting and twisting in the wind. The warriors of Ashanti rushed to fight. They swung their swords, fired their rifles, but nothing worked. The shadow warriors could not be touched. Fear spread through the village. How do you fight an enemy that cannot be harmed? But Yaa Asantewaa was not afraid. She raised her golden rifle, the same one she had used in battle long ago. A single shot rang through the air. The bullet, glowing with the power of her spirit, tore through the darkness. One of the shadow warriors let out a terrible scream and vanished. The people gasped. "Spirit fire!" Yaa Asantewaa called. "We need fire." The warriors grabbed torches and lit arrows, aiming at the creatures. The flames struck the shadows, making them writhe and howl. The darkness could be burned. A great battle began. The final stand, the warriors fought through the night. Fire blazed, arrows flew, and the spirits of Ashanti ancestors rose to fight beside their people. But the shadow warriors kept coming. For every one that burned, two more rose from the ground. Yaa Asantewaa stood on the battlefield, her golden spirit glowing like the sun. She looked up at the sky, then closed her eyes. Mother Earth, Father Sky, give me strength. Then, she did something no one expected. She dropped her rifle. She knelt on the ground and pressed her hands into the earth. A deep rumble filled the air. The ground beneath them began to shake. The sky flashed with golden light. And then a great tree burst from the ground, its roots twisting and spreading across the battlefield. The roots wrapped around the shadow warriors, pulling them down, trapping them deep beneath the earth. One by one, the creatures were swallowed by the land. Then, there was silence. The darkness was gone. A new dawn. As the sun rose, the Ashanti people stood in awe. The battlefield was covered in golden roots, shining in the morning light. Yaa Asantewaa stood in the center, her spirit flickering like the last embers of a fire. She turned to her people, her voice calm and strong. Ashanti will always rise. Protect this land. Protect your people. And never let greed or fear rule your hearts. With those final words, her spirit faded into the wind. The great tree still stands to this day, deep in the forest. The elders say that if danger ever comes again, the spirit of Yaa Asantewaa will return. And Ashanti will fight once more. The return of Yaa Asantewaa, the hidden enemy. A new threat rises. Years passed. The Ashanti people lived in peace, and the great tree of Yaa Asantewaa stood tall, its golden roots glowing under the moonlight. But one night, something terrible happened. The tree cracked. A loud, deep sound echoed through the forest as a dark mist leaked from the roots. The ground trembled. The villagers nearby ran in fear, shouting, "The shadows are returning." But when the mist cleared, there was no shadow army. Instead, there stood a man. Tall and dressed in a black robe, his skin was as dark as night, and his eyes glowed like red fire. He held a staff, carved from old wood, with a strange symbol glowing at its tip. His voice was deep and cold. "Foolish mortals. You thought the battle was over. You thought fire and earth could stop the darkness." He raised his staff, and the wind howled through the trees. "I am Nana Obonsam, the last son of the Shadow King. And I have come to finish what my father started." Then, with a single stomp of his foot, the ground split open, and the golden roots of Yaa Asantewaa's tree began to wither. The village in fear. Word of Nana Obonsam spread quickly. The elders called an emergency meeting. "This man is not like the shadow warriors of the past," one elder said. "He is powerful." "He is human, but also not human," said another. The chief priest, old and wise, shook his head. Yaa Asantewaa sealed the darkness beneath the earth. If this man is here, it means something powerful has broken the seal. The villagers were terrified. "What do we do?" someone asked. "We need warriors. We need fire," another shouted. But the priest sighed. "No. We need Yaa Asantewaa." Summoning the warrior queen that night, the elders and warriors gathered at the shrine of Yaa Asantewaa. They lit sacred torches, burned white clay, and sang the old war songs. The chief priest stood before the fire, lifting his hands to the sky. "Great Mother of Ashanti, warrior of our ancestors, protector of our people, return to us." The fire roared, turning blue. The wind howled through the village. Then, everything went silent. A soft voice whispered through the flames, "I never left." And from the fire, a figure stepped forward. Yaa Asantewaa had returned. Her golden rifle was slung across her back, her royal cloth shimmered in the firelight, and her eyes burned with fierce determination. "Tell me everything," she said. The battle was not over yet. "The war begins again." Yaa Asantewaa wasted no time. She gathered the warriors of Ashanti and prepared them for battle. But this time, the enemy was different. Nana Obonsam is powerful. He is not just a man, he is a vessel of the shadows, the chief priest warned. Then we must fight with more than weapons, Yaa Asantewaa said. She knew steel and fire alone would not be enough. They needed knowledge. So she traveled deep into the forest, to a hidden cave where the spirits of the old kings whispered their secrets. Inside, she found an ancient mask, black as night, with golden symbols carved into it. She placed it on her face, and visions flooded her mind. She saw the past. The Shadow King. The first war. The real source of the curse. It was not just greed that had awakened the darkness. It was betrayal. And the betrayer's blood still lived in the village. Someone among them was working with Nana Obonsam. Someone had helped him break the seal. The hidden traitor Yaa Asantewaa returned to the village with new knowledge, but also new fear. "We have a traitor among us," she announced. The villagers gasped. "Who?" they whispered. Yaa Asantewaa narrowed her eyes. "We will find out soon. Because the traitor will try to stop me before I reach Nana Obonsam." And so, the warriors prepared for battle. But Yaa Asantewaa knew the real fight would not be on the battlefield. The real fight was against the enemy hiding in plain sight. The betrayal of Ashanti, the suspicion begins the village was no longer safe. Yaa Asantewaa knew that one among them had broken the seal, one of their own had freed Nana Obonsam. She stood before the warriors and villagers, her golden rifle across her chest. "Someone among us is working with the enemy," she declared. "Someone who wanted the darkness to return." A heavy silence fell over the crowd. The villagers looked at one another, fear and doubt in their eyes. "But who?" a warrior asked. Yaa Asantewaa's sharp gaze swept over the crowd. "The answer will reveal itself soon," she said. Because the traitor, she knew, would soon try to stop her. A strange meeting that night. As the village slept, a hooded figure moved through the shadows, heading toward the old shrine. They stopped at the base of the sacred tree, where the golden roots had begun to wither. Then, in a hushed voice, they whispered, "He knows, my lord." "She knows." The air around them grew cold. A voice, deep and filled with power, echoed in the darkness. "Then she must be silenced." The figure nodded and disappeared into the night. The attack on Yaa Asantewaa just before dawn, as Yaa Asantewaa stood outside her hut, sharpening her blade, she heard soft footsteps behind her. She turned, just in time to see a warrior lunging at her with a dagger. With lightning-fast reflexes, she dodged the attack, twisting the warrior's arm and slamming him to the ground. The villagers woke up to the sound of the struggle. When they arrived, they gasped. The attacker was Kwabena, the chief's own nephew. "Kwabena," the chief whispered, horrified. "Why would you do this?" But Yaa Asantewaa already knew. She tore the sleeve of Kwabena's tunic, revealing a black mark on his arm. A cursed mark. The mark of Nana Obonsam. The villagers gasped. "He is the traitor." The truth revealed. Kwabena struggled, his eyes filled with fear and fury. "You don't understand," he spat. "The spirits have abandoned us. The gods are weak. But Nana Obonsam, he gives power. He gives wealth." Yaa Asantewaa's eyes burned with anger. "You let greed blind you," she said. "You betrayed your own people. You broke the seal." Kwabena laughed bitterly. "And do you think you can stop him? You think you can stop what is already coming?" Yaa Asantewaa looked into his eyes and spoke with cold certainty, "I do not think. I know." And with that, she knocked him unconscious. The final battle approaches now. The truth was out. The traitor had been found. But Nana Obonsam was still growing stronger. Yaa Asantewaa turned to the villagers. "The war is not over," she said. "The final battle is coming. And this time, it would decide the fate of all Ashanti. The final battle of Yaa Asantewaa." The sky turns black, the air was heavy. The village of Edweso was silent. Storm clouds gathered, blocking the sun. The trees swayed violently as a cold wind swept through the land. The warriors stood behind Yaa Asantewaa, their weapons gripped tightly. They knew Nana Obonsam was coming. And this time, he was stronger. The call of the ancestors. Yaa Asantewaa closed her eyes and lifted her golden rifle to the sky. Ancestors of Ashanti, she called. Great spirits who walk with us, hear me. A deep rumble shook the earth. From the sacred tree, golden light rose into the sky, forming the shapes of great Ashanti warriors, kings, queens, and guardians of the past. They surrounded Yaa Asantewaa, their voices like thunder. The darkness is rising, they warned. But you are not alone. Yaa Asantewaa nodded. She was ready. The monster arrives. A loud crack split the sky. The ground trembled. And then, he appeared. Nana Obonsam rose from the earth in a storm of black smoke, his body twisted and monstrous. His eyes glowed red, his skin cracked like burning coal. Behind him, shadowy creatures crawled out of the ground, their mouths dripping with black venom. Yaa Asantewaa, Nana Obonsam hissed. You think your ancestors can save you? Yaa Asantewaa did not flinch. You were defeated before. And you will be defeated again. The monster laughed. Then come. Let us finish this. The battle begins with a mighty roar. Nana Obonsam swung his massive claws toward Yaa Asantewaa. She dodged swiftly, rolling to the side and firing her golden rifle. The bullet, blessed by the ancestors, pierced through his chest. He screamed, staggering back. But he did not fall. The shadow creatures lunged at the warriors. The battle erupted into chaos. Swords clashed. Spears flew. Fire lit the sky. The warriors fought bravely, but Nana Obonsam's power was growing. He absorbed the darkness around him, growing larger, stronger. You cannot kill me, he bellowed. I am eternal. For the first time, Yaa Asantewaa felt a flicker of doubt. How could she stop something that could not die? The ultimate sacrifice. Then, she heard a whisper. The seal. It was the voice of the ancestors. The golden seal must be restored. Yaa Asantewaa's eyes widened. The sacred golden seal, the one that had once trapped Nana Obonsam, had been broken. If she could restore it, she could lock him away forever. But there was only one way. She had to bind him with her own life. The final strike. With fire in her heart, Yaa Asantewaa charged. She leaped high into the air, dodging the monster's claws. With all her strength, she slammed her golden rifle into the earth. A massive wave of golden energy exploded outward. The warriors and villagers shielded their eyes as the light engulfed everything. Nana Obonsam screamed. His body began to dissolve, pulled into the golden light. No, he roared. This is not the end. But it was. Yaa Asantewaa whispered a final prayer as the seal closed forever. The darkness vanished. And then, silence. A hero's legacy. When the warriors opened their eyes, Nana Obonsam was gone. The land was peaceful once more. But Yaa Asantewaa was no longer there. She had become part of the seal. Her spirit, forever bound to protect Ashanti from darkness. The people mourned, but they also celebrated. For Yaa Asantewaa had not died. She had become legend. And to this day, when the wind blows through the trees, the Ashanti people say, she is still watching over us. The end.